Joanne Harrell.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We are having a fireside chat. We do have some postcards if you have questions at the end. So I'm going to pass these out. If you have questions, please make sure I get them back, and I will give them to Miss Joanne Harrell.
Okay, great. And I assume that you can hear me okay, right? Okay. So first of all, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you. I've looked through the program, and it's impressive to see who's here on the agenda. And the fact that you're devoting this much time to this topic is admirable. I will say that my dear husband touched on a whole lot here, and he did talk about the fact that not only has he owned businesses, and he's explored lots of ideas, both of us have, so I think we understand this space. And one thing that I want to ask him is this question of, from a community standpoint, right? As African Americans, and we're all here together today, we are focused on community. How do you, as mayor, and as a previous business owner, define success from a community perspective? What does that look like?
And by the way, I don't know a lot of questions she's going to ask me, so can you give her brother a heads up on these questions? No, I'm just kidding. First of all, success through my lens is, I want you all to make a lot of money. Okay, that's cool. That's clap off that. But for me, that is not the why. The why is that I'm hoping that you hire from the communities that look like you. I'm hoping that you hire, I once was asked to give a speech, and they said, it was a white person asked me, says, we want you to speak and be a role model for some of these black students. Will you come and speak to them? And I said, well, I'll consider it, but who's your lawyer? He said, what? I said, who's your attorney? And I said, I'm making a point. I said, why don't you ask your attorney to do it? The point is that you can recycle your money in your community. Success is you look at your doctor. I see a few doctors. You look at your accountant. You look at your insurance broker. You look at whoever you're using. Are you recycling the ecosystem? Success to me looks like you're not just lining your pockets with money, but you are building the ecosystem because there are people with perhaps even criminal records that need a chance. There are people that are coming out of drug addiction that need a chance. And if you are going to be as exclusive and prejudicial toward people from my community, quite frankly, I have no interest in helping you. None. Zero. Go talk to someone else. Go talk to your business advisor. Go talk to someone else that does that. And I asked the question, Joanne, and I'll shut up in a minute. You're good at telling me shut up sometimes. I say this. We did have this conversation. I said, let's talk about some great local business leaders. I said, I'll just throw out some names, Jeff Bezos or Andy Jassy or Howard Schultz or these household names, right? I said, we had dinner the other night with the founders of Costco, the lead financier and the first CEO, and we were talking about this. I said, I wonder when they started their business, did they say, and by the way, we are going to concern ourselves with social good. We're going to employ people from certain communities. Or did they simply say we're going to make as much money as possible and give the highest rate of return on our shareholders? I don't know because I wasn't part of those, but I'll tell you what. A lot of you weren't at those tables as well, right? That's the relationship capital piece. A lot of these folks, I will guarantee you, are no smarter or more committed to business success than you. I will guarantee you that. That's why I say the relationship capital that you must develop, that many people in this room have, by the way, and you don't just give it up freely. Success looks like someone that understands that they must share relationship capital, that you're sharing it. You're hiring from your own communities. You have a social good. I want you to get the fancy house and the cars and the boats and that's all cool. Where are you going, Nate?
He's giving you water.
And you see, and I want you, thank you very much, Nate. I want you to do what this brother's doing.
That's right.
His only problem, he joined the wrong fraternity. Other than that, I see the blue and white. Other than that, major mistake in his career path. I've seen him stand up and raise his hand. Yes. Someone say, who's going to dedicate? Who's going to give $25,000? Who's going to give $50,000 of this? Nate Miles' hands goes up all the time. Yeah. That's what success looks like to me, is you are giving back. And if you're willing to do that, I'm all in with you. I'll do everything humanly possible to help you succeed. Access to capital, social media skills, relationship capital, strategic planning, cross-marketing your services with other businesses. I got to tell you this one trick that someone taught me. When I was a lawyer, first I was in telecom and technology, John, for a number of years. I said I wanted to start another firm with a bunch of friends. And I said, and I went to a training class, because remember, you seek out these opportunities. And the guy says, well, what kind of law do you practice? I said, well, number one, I like to do business work. And I says, but I'm dabbling in some employment law, because I said, quite frankly, black folk are being treated unfairly in the workplace. I want to be pretty smart on that. I went back and got SHRM certified and did a bunch of stuff. And he gave me some cards. The card says 4 suits on it. I know you know spades, clubs, hearts, and diamonds. And he says, I'm holding a bunch of cards, and I like hearts. Hearts is what I do. But Nate's got diamonds. No, I'm sorry. Nate's got 4 suits too. Spades, clubs, hearts, and diamonds. Well, I'm going to give you all of my diamonds because you like diamonds. You're going to give me all of my hearts, right? So we're swapping because I love hearts. You love diamonds. And you've got, what's your name, brother? I know you. Mike, of course, Mike. Mike's got clubs. He likes clubs. I'm giving you my clubs. He's giving me my hearts. I like hearts. What's the point? Relationships start to develop. Every time you get a heart, you're coming my way, right? So I went through that exercise, and I started talking about, I looked at how many lawyers I knew. And when we started exchanging cards, my phone rang off the hook. Because as soon as someone called me, I was going to have Micah's clubs and Nate the diamonds. You could do the same thing in your business. Your strongest marketeers of your business, guess where they are right now? In this darn room. These folks could market your business right now if you play it right. Sorry, I got a little long-winded on that question.
Okay, good answer, dear. So, we're going to be short on time.
Yes.
So I'm just going to ask you one more question, and then we'll open it up and look at the cards that are out there, and I'll ask from those. And let me preface this by saying that as First Lady, I go to lots of forums where African Americans are. I was just at one a couple of days ago with Gerald Hankerson, who's the head of the NAACP, who's sitting right next to Nate. And over, I hear from us lamenting complaints, concerns about the fact that there are not that many of us here, right? And the mayor touched on this a little bit. So this is my question. I want you to talk more about this. And that is, do you think the Seattle region or Northwest region is a good environment for black-owned businesses? Or are cities like Atlanta or Washington, D.C., where there's a higher concentration of African Americans in leadership positions, more conducive to creating success for black-owned businesses? Now, as I turn it over to you, I am originally from Washington, D.C., still have lots of family and relatives there. I've also looked at the social mobility in my job at Microsoft, social mobility index for cities around the country. And I have a bias on this. I know that Seattle is very good for social mobility, and a lot of the cities that have high black populations are not. So I'll turn that to you for you to talk about. Why here?
Thank you, Joanne. And I'll sort of repeat the question as I heard it.
Okay.
I gave you the statistics on the number of black folk in Seattle. And relative to other cities where there's a higher concentration, is that more conducive or less conducive than being here? Is the shortage of black folk here in Seattle, is that a hindrance to you? That's
Right,
sort of
that's
how
exactly
I interpret the
it.
question. Okay.
Right.
So number one is, that's a great question, by the way. I just have to project. I refuse defeat in anything that I do. I refuse it.
Yeah.
And I cannot control directly the demographics in Seattle. I said there's a sea of money around here, so I would say wherever you are, whether you're in Atlanta or Washington, D.C. or here, you chose to be here in the Northwest. That is your decision.
Right.
No, we are in a choice society. And I will tell you, what we don't have are some of the relationships that we've been deprived upon. But those relationships can be had. If any of you go to the UNCF dinner, for example, that's a great example of where people will invest in our community. That is the fact of the matter. So I see an abundance of opportunity here in Seattle, an abundance of opportunity. I also would suggest that we have to go and find it. We have to seek it out. I don't assume that You know, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, that's not even a controversial statement. Of course we matter. We grew up, people in my vintage, we grew up in a world where we said, Black power. Black is beautiful. Right? Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. We grew up in a period of strong empowerment. And so when I would suggest that as you look at your businesses, you seize the opportunity. Now, I don't know if you're going after 6.8% of the population in your customer base or 100%. You have to make a conscious decision, right? You have to make a conscious decision. It's who is your customer base, and whatever your good or your service is there a need for it? There's not a need for fax machines right now. And if you're meeting that need and you are the best at what you do, and I will say, I bragged about my wife because she's worthy of being bragging, but people have no idea how hard this sister works. I literally will tell you, before I've gotten up in the morning, she has read the Wall Street Journal, she's read the New York Times, and she's reading the Seattle Times. And she's just not reading the comics, she's reading the business section, understanding business. Okay? So, and what's not in your question is formal education versus informal education. I want to talk about that for a moment. We both have college degrees and graduate degrees. We were fortunate. Many of you do not and may not. Many very successful people do not. That cannot be a hindrance. That is, if you do not have that formal education, I encourage everyone to go back, try to get it, but then that's that elephant, right? Oh, I may not know how to do this. That's negative self-talk. Right now, you can learn how to do a business plan, and there are resources to help you. One of the reasons we go into small business sometimes is because traditional routes, everyone's not going to write code for Microsoft. Traditional routes may not be what we chose to do. The beauty of going into business, I love this man right here, Louis Rudd. He's the example of what we all want to strive for, giving back. And I know how that works too, because everybody wants some free chicken, right? You hook a brother up? Can you hook me up? Doing this event, can you hook? The fact of the matter is informal versus formal, you can overcome that because you get, I always say, my executive team, I have 4 deputy mayors, 2 of whom are black women, much smarter than me. One's an engineer. That I have a tendency to try to get smart people around me. So if you are lacking, but you have the tenacity, the passion for excellence, get people with PhDs or masters around you and make the magic. So Seattle is an awesome place. And if you don't believe that, then move. If you don't believe it, move.
Right.
Because you have a crazy mayor that's running this city that is willing to go to the mat for you.
Right.
Because, and I'll tell you this, it's not coincidence that the vice president was here this week. It's not coincidence that President Biden was here for Earth Day. It's not coincidence that I was in Japan 6 or 8 weeks ago as the only mayor speaking at the G7 conference. That I'm working these relationships, not for me, I'm old. Man, I'm in the 4th quarter, Nate. Say that. It's because my moral obligation through the grace of God is to make sure that you succeed. And that's why I said on your first question, Joanne, success is you succeeding and giving back. And if you don't believe that, then quite frankly, you'll always be broke. I just believe karma is a bad something. Karma is something that if you're just trying to line your pockets, you'll always be a little short. So Seattle is an awesome place. Make it happen, and we will help you make it happen, because the University of Washington, the work that Michael's doing over here is phenomenal. He is here for you, and I think Louis would be a testament to that.
Yes. Okay, we are short on time. I want to thank all of you who submitted cards, and I think I only have time for one.
I'll do one sentence answers.
Okay.
If that's
Okay, if you
one
do one
sentence.
sentence, then I'll ask you two.
One sentence.
Okay, as black small business, as a black small business newly coming to the CD, how do we access the resources available to us and navigate through the system? And I think this question applies to all black businesses relative to the resources that are available from a city perspective.
One sentence. Give your card to Gerald Hankerson right there, who's staffing me on this, and we'll follow up. Gerald Hankerson, raise your hand, brother.
Yeah.
Give your card to him, and we'll make sure we put the right resources.
Okay. And then this last one, what was the best advice someone gave you?
The best advice that someone gave you.
Gave you?
gave me.
You.
Make no excuses. Make no excuses. I can make them all day long. But I don't think God wants us to make excuses. And if you have that tenacity, man, the world is right there for you.
Okay, Miko? Are we good? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.